What's up, guys? Welcome to another nice episode from the Degenerate Gambling Life. These are my top waiver wire pickups at the QB position. First off, I have Justin Herbert. He's available in 45% of Yahoo leagues right now, and he's averaging over 20 fantasy points per game in the last 3 weeks. The Chargers offense is starting to click, and he does have some favorable matchups over the next 5 weeks. I also like picking up Bo Nix. He's been playing very solid football so far as a rookie, and he's going to have a couple of good matchups coming up over the next 2 games. His rushing ability gives him a high ceiling, and he's a decent QB2 moving forward. And another guy I really like is Russell Wilson. This is a match made in heaven for Wilson in Pittsburgh, and he is absolutely rolling in that offense. He won't always get a ton of opportunities as his team does like to pound the rock, but he is threading the needle and playing very efficiently in the red zone, and he can definitely be rostered.
Ladies and gentlemen, your Week 11 waiver wire pickups at the wide receiver position. We're starting with Marquez Valdez-Scantling of the New Orleans Saints. He had 3 targets for 3 catches, over 100 yards, and a touchdown this past week. And hey, who else are the Saints really going to be throwing to? They got Olave, he's been injured. Rashid Shaheed, he's done. So let's face it, outside Alvin Kamara out of the backfield, Valdez-Scantling could be that guy. I suggest stashing him and see how he evolves into that offense. We're also looking at Keyshawn Boot of the New England Patriots. 6 targets per game over the last 3 games, and in those 3 games combined, he's got over 100 yards and a touchdown. And listen, those 3 games were against 3 of the top 5 defenses against the wide receiver position. So let's see how he evolves into that, especially with Drake May coming along. Who knows? Could be building some chemistry, could become a favorite. Grab him, stash him. We're also looking at Mike Williams of the Steelers. A lot of people had him at the beginning of the season. He's since been dropped, but there could be a rejuvenation in Pittsburgh. Listen, they needed somebody to take some of the stress off of Pickens on the other side of the field, but guess what? That's also going to help Mike Williams out, and I know Mike Williams obviously has had a lackluster season thus far, but this could be the rejuvenation he needs, as I said. And he only had the 1 target in his first game, but it was a 32-yard touchdown. So that's who I would be looking at this week at the wide receiver position.
Here are your waiver wire running backs. First, we have Cam Akers, Minnesota Vikings. If you didn't know, Aaron Jones got injured in the game, and Cam Akers was actually viable before then, getting a decent amount of carries. But with Jones out, he is going to be a volume based back and should be startable as the Vikings have a pretty good offense. Next, Gus Edwards, Los Angeles Chargers. Hate seeing it if you're J.K. Dobbins owner, but Gus did get 10 carries and he'll probably still a little bit of the goal line work. So if you're in bye week or flex issues, he is definitely an option. Finally, Devin Singletary, New York Giants. Yes, Tracy is phenomenal and he is the RB1, but he's still averaging around 8 touches a game. And depending on the weeks and again, injuries and buys, Singletary can be a flex option for you.
There aren't that many great options to add at tight end position this week, but here are a few guys who are worth a spot on your roster. Starting off, I like adding Mike Gesicki. He's still only 45% owned in Yahoo leagues, and with Eric All on IR, he has emerged as the top tight end in an explosive Bengals offense. He has seen at least 6 targets over the past 3 games, and he had a season high 9 targets in week 10. Next up, I like adding Taysom Hill if he is still available in your league. He is 53% owned on Yahoo, and one of the reasons I like Hill so much as a bye week fill in is that he has one of the highest floors for a fantasy tight end due to his rushing opportunities. He is good for at least 5 or 6 points every week, and if he cracks the end zone, he can have some monster games. And lastly, I think adding Jonnu Smith might be worth a shot. He's still a pretty explosive player, and he is seeing good target share, having received at least 5 targets over his past 3 games.
This week's debate topic: are the Dallas Cowboys just a head coach change away from competing for a Super Bowl? I think so. Listen, they have Dak Prescott. I get it. He's hurt for the season. CeeDee Lamb, Micah Parsons. They got other stars on the team. A change in leadership is going to change the culture. It could motivate the talent on this roster to get their butts in gear. And listen, McCarthy, he's been bad with in-game adjustments. It's been very evident they need a new coach in there that's going to be more adaptable to the way the NFL is played these days.
All right. I say the Cowboys need much more than just a head coach. Have you watched the Cowboys this season? I live in Texas. Cowboy hater, and they are terrible. They've actually been imploding since December of 2023, and of course, the playoffs. My Packers laid a smackdown on them. Next, their O line is trash. That's one of their biggest strengths for the longest time, but it's long gone. And their star guard, he's at the last of his legs, and they just need to rebuild. Finally, the Cowboys have Jerry Jones. He's been their biggest issue since 1996. Since then, the Cowboys are closer to the Browns than they are to being a championship team.
Excuse me, sir. Would you like another hot take?
Yeah, definitely. Keep them coming.
Okay, my hot takes this week are all about the American League in baseball. First, the Cleveland Guardians are closer to the World Series than my beloved Yankees. Why do I say that? Because their lineup is deeper and their bullpen is fantastic. If they develop or sign the right veteran starting pitcher, they'll be right there. Next, the Rangers. The Rangers are trash. I like them, but they are. And what I mean is they're adding ilks along. Some of them, like Adolis, maybe the warts are really starting to show, but their starting pitching and bullpen has always been the story. Unless Jack Leiter and Kumar Rocker, they hit on few others, develop, the Rangers will not be a playoff contender. Finally, the Royals. The Royals just kind of have this magic and looks like they have it again. If they sign the right veterans or a few people develop, I can see the Royals doing again what they did in 2015 and win it all.
As the chilly weather rolls into the Midwest, we know that can only mean one thing. The basketball season has kicked off, and it is early in the season, but is it too early to start panicking? If I'm the 76ers or the Milwaukee Bucks, I am definitely panicking. Let's take a look at the 76ers. Their next 4 games are against opponents in the top 6. They cannot sustain this trajectory of only 2 wins so far out of 10 games while Tyrone Maxey is out. And they need to hope he comes back and gives them a boost in a couple weeks and that they can challenge to get some sort of home court advantage come playoff times, because they're not going to want to go through the East without it. The Bucks, 5 of their 8 losses by 10 plus, not good, been mostly healthy and still underperforming, and this could mean Giannis might want out, maybe at the trade deadline, maybe at the end of the season. Anyways, it ain't looking good for the Bucks. They need to step it up as well.
My hot take for the week is that Tua Tagovailoa has never been given the respect he deserves. Tagovailoa has been a warrior over the course of his career, and when you watch him play, you see the passion that he has for the game, and that's really what makes him great. This season, while he was injured, the Dolphins went from one of the most feared offenses in the NFL to a shell of their former selves. I think it's finally time that we give Tua the respect he deserves. This guy has some of the best pocket presence of any quarterback that you see in the game today. He's always ducking and weaving and seemingly knows where defenders are at all times with eyes in the back of his head or something. I think when you have a guy who elevates his team like this, it's kind of surprising that he's never gotten those accolades or that respect. Don't be shocked if Tua has the Dolphins in the playoff hunt again later this season.
My hot take for the week is that I like Ultimate Texas Hold'em more than regular Texas Hold'em. The reason I like Ultimate Hold'em is because it combines Hold'em with Blackjack, and it makes it so you only have to beat the dealer's hand. This allows the table to work together and allows the players to develop camaraderie. And this is the opposite of most Texas Hold'em tables where the vibes aren't as good because you have to beat the other players.
This is a poker hand I played at the Golden Nugget in Las Vegas. In this hand, the cutoff limped, and I completed in the big blind with Jack 7 and a super tight player on the button. Straddle checked back. The flop came Jack 7 8. In this hand, I checked since the cutoff was an aggressive player who I thought would stab here a lot with air, but the cutoff does check, and now the tight player on the button bets for 15. I make the call, and the cutoff gets out of the way. The turn comes a 5. I check again, and he bets for 30. And at this point, I'm actually contemplating if he has me beat here because he was super tight, like checking back top boat because he was scared of quads type of guy. So I do think he has a strong range here, and for that reason, I do end up making the raise because he just has a lot of ace jack and king jack here. I make it 100, and he makes the call. The river comes at 4. I check because the one liner comes in, and here I was looking to check fold, assuming that if he has a better hand than me, he's going to bet. But he does check back, and now I think I'm good, but he actually has Jack 6 and beats us with a straight. But I get lucky that I don't face a tough river decision here.
Okay, playing 1-2 at Windstar, and we're earned gun and look down at pocket threes, and we raise to $15. A very tight player from the low jack calls, which makes our spider sense tingle, and now the cutoff 3 bets to 40. The small blind calls, I assume the low jack will as well, so I flat and the low jack does call. The flop, the queen of spades, the jack of hearts, the 3 of hearts. The small blind and I now check, and the low jack leads out for 50. The cutoff and I both call, but again, the low jack did not like that. Turn the 10 of diamonds. I check, and now the low jack goes all in for 175. The cutoff snap calls. I tank, but I do find the fold, thinking someone probably has a overset or the straight. The river's a 6 of hearts, and the low jack showed they did have a set of jacks, and the cutoff had ace king offsuit, and they scooped and won a pretty good sized pot. So I'm glad I found the fold on the turn. All right, so playing 1-2 at Windstar and limps me, and I raise to $18 in middle position with Ace King of Spades. Two players call, and now the big blind 3 bets to 75. I debate flatting, but I only have 167. I'm not folding, so I go all in because I can't find the fold either if I call. So everyone folds, but the big blind snap calls, and they show red aces. The flop comes the king of diamonds, the 10 of spades, the 8 of diamonds. So we do still have some outs. The turn is a queen of spades, giving us more outs to chop or win. And the river, of course, is the 6 of hearts. The aces hold, and this is why I hate going all in pre-flop with ace king and prefer to view it more like jack 10 on steroids.
Soccer hooligans.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another edition of the Adam Minutes. We're just going to hit you with some quick hitters today. First up, Pep Guardiola loses 4 straight games for the first time in his managerial career. I know it's wild. They are still competing in second place in the Premier League, still competing in all competitions. But this is kind of crazy for a manager of his caliber. The first time ever losing 4 straight. I don't know. We'll have to keep an eye on that. Van Nistelrooy is stepping down at Man United with the arrival of Amorim. Listen, this was suspected. This is happening. Amorim's the man in charge. Van Nistelrooy is taking a step back. Liverpool stay top of the league over the weekend, just barely in front of Manchester United, who are on the skid currently. And the ref, Daniel Cootie, was suspended over Liverpool comments. Listen, I'm not going to tell you guys what he said. I suggest you go and seek those out and listen to them, especially if you're like me and hate Liverpool. Anyways, Arsenal and Chelsea, they had a boring 1-1 draw over the weekend, and this leaves 9 teams on 5 wins in the Premier League and only 3 points separating them. Those teams are Chelsea, Arsenal, Nottingham Forest, Brighton, Fulham, Newcastle, Aston Villa, Tottenham, and Brentford. La Liga, things are finally taking shape, as they always do. We got Barca in first, Real Madrid in second, and Atletico Madrid in third. Bayern Munich remains undefeated in the Bundesliga, and Serie A is wide open. 6 teams separated by 2 points at the top. It's Napoli, Atalanta, Fiorentina, Inter, Lazio, and Juventus. I hope you guys enjoyed this edition of the Adam Minutes, and we'll catch you next week.
Okay, your fancy football fool's gold players of the week. First, we have Tylan Wallace, wide receiver on the Baltimore Ravens. He averaged zero, a big zero before this last game, targets a game. And the Ravens are super deep at wide receiver, so don't rush out there and get this guy. Next, Xavier Worthy, Kansas City Chiefs. Again, I've been saying this, he's just a faster version of MVS, okay? He has stones for hands. If it's not designed run or play just for him, he isn't relevant in the game. So these are two players that you should look to pass on. Okay, your fancy basketball players to add. Let's start with Benedict. Starts with an M on the Indiana Pacers. Not going to butcher it. He gives you the shooting guard and small forward, so that forward and guard position flexibility we love. He's been player 41 the last 2 weeks, and he's available in 49% of leagues. He's averaged 2.1 3 pointers made, 21.4 points, 7.3 rebounds, 2.1 assists, and a steal. Next, I'm going to butcher the name. He's on the Orlando Magic. He's a center. Gorga starts with a B. Not even going to try. He's been player 25 since Pablo went down and it hurts they lost their superstar, but he is going to be out for a little while. But since then, he's averaged 10.5 points, 10.5 rebounds, 3 assists, a steal, and 2 blocks. So you definitely love those numbers. So these are players to go out there and add. Okay, thank you so much for watching to the end. If you haven't yet, please take a moment, hit that like, comment, subscribe. And if you do not know yet, on Saturdays we are dropping our start sits for the week. So check that out to make sure that you're watching, seeing the players you should be starting and sitting for fantasy football. And at 11 a.m. Central Time, we go live to kind of give you the best updates of what's going on for fantasy football. So check that out. We have our store. Go there, get some DGL merch, and have a great week.